Hello there, everybody. It is time to start Bear Side of the Mat, and I am Matt Brenner. I am that Matt85. Today, we'll be going over a few things, a few news pieces, kind of going over the last week in wrestling and doing a preview of NXT and AEW for tonight. I see John Bear's not here today. He's a little busy, no big deal. He'll be back next week. We'll be doing today's show without him. Hi there to Corey. Let's put that in the chat there. So I want to say welcome to everybody that's in the chat today, and we'll try to put on a good show without John, although I will say I have the Bear Side of the Mat graphic right here, but I don't have the graphics for everything else I'm talking about. John usually does a good job with that, putting that up on the screen, but I don't have those prepared. It's not a big deal, but it is a nice little touch for when we're doing a team podcast here. So where we're going to start today, we're going to start with, unfortunately this morning I found out via Damian Sandow's Twitch account that Animal of the Road Warriors, or Joseph Laurinaitis, as he's known in the out of the ring, unfortunately passed away. And Road Warriors, one of the more popular from the time that they're around, even to today, one of the more popular tag teams and personalities in, I guess, the wrestling world. Even when I was younger and I wasn't a huge fan of the Road Warriors, I was still knew of Animal and Hawk, and liked watching them with their gigantic football pads and everything. Big personality, fun in the ring. And his son played football for the St. Louis Rams. I think he's retired kind of young, but I think he's retired. So unfortunately, he's going to be missed by a lot of people. I'm sure WWE is going to do 20 bell salute or 10 bell salute, whatever they do. And even AEW is tweeting out because he's such a big name in the wrestling world. So that's very unfortunate news if you haven't heard of it, heard the news yet. Unfortunately, he has passed away. It's from what I understand, was of natural causes while he was at a wedding reception in the Ozarks in Missouri. So I'm not sure exactly what that means. I don't expect there to be any drama to come out of that. It's just, unfortunately, he passed away. So wishes go out to his son, the rest of his family, and everybody else that's affected by his unfortunate early demise. So we're going to move on from that, though. We have a couple of things I want to talk about news-wise, and we're going to get to Raw and talking about Raw, but of course we need to start with news-wise. Retribution was kind of unveiled, or at least, and I was wondering how they're going to kind of do this. So I guess to keep a little bit consistency, they have 5 main members, and 2 are women, 3 are men, and they still have a bunch of masked extras or henchmen or whatever. And much like Tozawa has his ninjas, they're just kind of black clad and they're meant to go get beat up. But from the main members, we've learned that the names of the 3 main ones are T-Bar, Mace, and Slapjack. And I'm not gonna critique every little thing here. When Retribution, the idea of it first came out, it was going to be a huge thing, and it had potential about what they were going to do with it. And there's a lot that they could do with it, and unfortunately, it's gone down a bad road, I think. There's a lot of problems with it, starting with they made exceptions for, because they're supposed to be like a terrorism group. They're coming in and taking what they want, but they had a exceptions. Like, we're doing a pay-per-view, we don't want it interrupted, so Retribution's not going to interrupt the pay-per-view for some reason. Yeah, story-wise, it's just a little out there, and then trying to put them in the ring with a bunch of weird face masks, obviously copying off of Hollywood monsters and such, and giving them such weird names. Like I said, I'm not going to critique everything. T-Bar, fine. Mace is like it's a weapon. Or, I mean, I'm when I think of Mace, I think of the spiked ball at the end of a handle mace. I'm not thinking of the spray, pepper spray in people's face mace. And then you have Slapjack, and that I asked my wife, who doesn't do wrestling at all. I was like, okay, so let me tell you, if you were watching wrestling and you heard, okay, there's a terrorist group that's taken over wrestling, and they're mean and they're brutal and they're doing whatever they want, and one of them's named Slapjack, and as soon as I said Slapjack, she started cracking up. Yeah, that's it's a little ridiculous. So we'll see what happens to that. Slapjack, I believe, is like a playing card game where, like, you put down cards, and if you see a jack, you got to slap it first to win the cards or something like that. So that's what comes to mind when I hear Slapjack. What do I think about the oldest getting? I'm not expound on that, Corey, and I can try and answer that. It sounds like something that I don't know about, Corey. But as far as Retribution goes, even from what I've read backstage, it sounds like they're already given an impossible task of trying to get something over like this. And here's a funny little thing to think about. In Japan, they do a lot of this wrestling, and this started with, I think it started with Luther, who's in AEW right now, went to Japan and was told to be a kind of a monster, and he took it literally and dressed up like a Hollywood monster. And now it's become a thing to have like Hollywood villains like Freddy Krueger and Jason and whoever else, Pinhead or whoever's come out to wrestle as these Hollywood monsters. And in Japan, that makes a little more sense because for a couple reasons. One, in Japan, they take wrestling a little more serious. So having like this killer people from overseas that are just really frightening adds a little bit more to it. But also the Halloween characters and the movie aspect of it isn't as ingrained into their culture as it is in U.S. culture. So so when somebody comes out in American TV dressed as Jason or as the Bane mask from Batman, that's what we think of. We don't think of mean person who's going to beat up and murder people. We think of somebody dressing up in a Halloween mask. So that's why I don't think it's working as much here, if that's what they're even going for, and I'm not sure that that's what they're going for. But we'll get more to that later as we get down into the news. Let's see, I meant to. What do you think about The Miz finding Mr. Money in the Bank's Otis? I don't know. I think they even brought it up before on TV that, and we can get to this later again once we go through the the shows. But I don't think they even brought it up on the TV that just because you steal the Money in the Bank briefcase or even the contract doesn't mean that you get to use it, because it's already half made out to whoever's. Well, I guess he signs it and then hands it over to the ref or whatever. But it's won by somebody. They have it. It's theirs to use. If you steal it, you don't get it unless there's some sort of stipulation to a match. And if it is Kairi Sane's birthday, I do want to say happy birthday to Kairi Sane, one of my favorite wrestlers. Next news story I want to do, though, is so Hangman Page, Adam Hangman Page, however he says his name. Hangman was asked about his WWE tryout, And this isn't about his tryout specifically, but he brought up a few points in this interview where he was saying at the time, and this was the way for a long time, if you wanted to make your living in wrestling, you had to make it to WWE. And that, again, as he said, doesn't necessarily mean you had to be the best wrestler. It doesn't mean you had to really work yourself to be over with a bunch of crowd while you're in the indies. It meant you just have to have whatever that thing is that WWE is looking for. And a lot of times it may have been a look, it might have just been a body size, not necessarily skills. And they'll put you in the role that they want, and it may not even be a good role, and it may not last very long, but while you're in WWE, you're making the money, so you just have to do what you have to do. And that's changed in a couple ways. With AEW, there's another alternative where you can make your living in wrestling. But even some of the indie scenes, if you're a big enough draw, you start getting the top billing at these different indie events, then you start making money. And that's a little different right now because the coronavirus has kind of put a stop to a lot of those. I mean, even AEW, the AEW started having some fans back. WWE hasn't because they're in a kind of the Thunderdome. They can't put people in there. They don't want to tour from city to city. AEW happens to have a home base in the Jacksonville Jaguars Stadium where they can set up and have shows and have people in there. But that's not the same for WWE. They have a performance center that doesn't really have room for fans. What they would be able to use is Full Sail, which has room for some fans, but it's a small place, so even if you distance people there, you're not getting very many people in at all. Whereas the Jacksonville Jaguars area, you can fit a lot of people in there, and it's an open-air environment and all that stuff. But anyway, my point is that AEW, the indie scene, there, if you were able to be one of the top people that isn't signed with AEW or WWE, you can still make a living with money, with just being in the indies still. Not a whole lot of people, but it's an option. And then, like I said, AEW is an option, WWE is an option. So you can try to build up the way that you want to build up. And if you do a good job, there's a better chance now you'll get noticed for what you are doing and being good at what you're doing. So I think that's I think it's true and it's telling, and I think it's a good direction to get more people doing their thing instead of just kind of WWE's vision of what wrestling should be. And that's not to say that, again, knock on WWE. They do a lot of entertaining things, but I also think that there's a lot of great wrestlers and people that they hold back. Of course, you can't have everybody, but that's why we have a couple of shows, because you have that overflow of talent without anywhere for them to go, really, and an audience that wants to see that overflow of talent. So you get a lot of people in a lot of different places. Everybody can pick out who they want to watch, and it's better for us, the viewers, even if it's not necessarily better for WWE. Yeah, this goes for anybody that's in the chat. If you have opinions on what I'm talking about, and I'm not necessarily going to read everything that's put in the chat out loud, but it's good to have discussion amongst yourself. It's good to have discussion with me and see what you think. I'm always happy to see those comments as they pop up. So that was just a few news stories I wanted to go over. We're going to go to NXT here, and let's run down this really quick here. So we had NXT North American Championship Championship match with Damian Priest versus Timothy Thatcher. If you remember last week, I had said that NXT was going to be my pick for the week, and AEW surprised me with how good it was. Maybe it was even better than NXT, although NXT still did put on a good show, and this match right here was a great match. It was an interesting matchup to see Timothy Thatcher, kind of a hands-on grappling wrestler, up against Damian Priest, who's more of a hard hitter and a little bit of high flying in there. A lot of times what we've seen with Timothy Thatcher's matches, for the most part, has been him doing his thing, his ground mat thing, and you get him against wrestlers who can also do ground mat work, which makes it easier for them to counter him back, but also easier for them to take the holds that Timothy Thatcher's putting out. You have Damian Priest, who hasn't really done kind of that groundwork. But they worked it out really well, where you had Thatcher doing the groundwork, you had Damian Priest coming out with the big hits, and I didn't really think Thatcher was going to take the title here, but what we did get was a really entertaining match, and that's the important part here. We got to see mostly just Priest was able to overpower Thatcher, and able to. That's basically how the match went. I enjoyed watching the match. I'm not going to give a rating for all these, but just wanted to go over the different parts here. I think it makes Priest look. So it makes Priest look a little stronger, a little more valid, instead of just having had, because if you get the title in a multi-man match, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're the best of everybody there. It means you took the advantage of everybody else there. But when you're doing one-on-one matches and you're winning those, that's when you're gaining reputation and respect. I think Priest, and he did an interview where Damian Priest said that he'd been trying too hard, and Triple H told him, hey, we're trying to push you. We need you to be more natural. Just, be yourself. Don't fail because you're trying to be someone else. If you're going to fail because you're being yourself. So he started being himself. And I'll be honest, that's about the time when I started enjoying watching him more. And this wasn't right when he won. It was a bit before he won the title here. Before that, it really did seem like he was trying too hard to be something that he wasn't. I was comparing him a lot to Baron Corbin. Now I think he is a lot more himself. He's seeming more convincing of a character and having more fun out there, and that's what we want to see. Very much, I don't know if Timothy Thatcher is that crazy person, but he seems more authentic and an authentically crazy person. But that's what we like to see. So, yeah, Priest looks a bit stronger, a little more authentic as a character, and that's a little different, but a little more deserving of his title. Thatch still has his thing where, he's good at what he does. He's brutal. You want to see him fight. I don't know if he's at the point to where he could just overpower everyone. And if they wanted to work that in, I think that makes sense. Grappling and stuff works certain ways on certain people and has better effects. It doesn't work all the time on everyone. And you have some bad matchups, or you have somebody that, like, Priest is taller than him, so it's harder to grapple people that are bigger than you. So that's where you get this kind of look at. And I was going to say, too, Priest isn't really a bad guy anymore. He's not really a good guy. Timothy Thatcher, he's kind of crazy and brutal, but I don't think they really picture him as a heel. So this was just kind of a, I guess, just person versus person match, not really good guy versus bad guy, face versus heel. So we didn't really have that aspect to it, but that was fine with me. We also had NXT Tag Team Championship match, Breezango versus Imperium. This was kind of to cement Breezango as being legit champions, and I'm kind of going backwards in the order that everything went here, but that's okay with me. Yeah, I like Imperium. I like Breezango, and I liked both matches that they've had here. I hope this isn't too much of a burial of Imperium. I hope they still can have some matches, have good luck. I don't really want to see them fighting Breezango every single week. They've had a few matches. If they come back and have another big match later, that's fine. If they're still in the title picture, that's great too. But another fun match from Breezango and Imperium. But yeah, that's another point to talk about with Breezango. For a long time, they were kind of a comedy act, and they still got that funness there. In fact, that was kind of what this match was about, was Imperium being stone cold, straight-laced, wrestling. That's all we're here for. And you had Breezango, who was being looked at as a comedy team, but they had won. I think Breezango can keep their funness and keep their entertainment while being rewarded with the titles, and I like that. I know a lot of times, at least in WWE, you have the comedy matches, and that's all they're looked at is comedy matches. A way to get a match in without having to build the tension or stakes when they don't necessarily have stakes because there's only so many titles to go around. So it's nice, I think, to see them get the titles. Hopefully, hold on to them for a little bit. They don't necessarily have to big run. Just legitimize them a little bit too. It's helping out the tag division for NXT. Which we need to see a few more tag teams kind of step up into this void. But for at least what they have a good tag division, I think. I don't mind any of them going to maybe SmackDown or something because they have a lot of tag teams that are injured. That's kind of true. Well, I felt that way about the women's division in NXT and in SmackDown and Raw is that they're missing a lot of people and they might want to fill that. I think at least right now they're trying to get the most of what they have. So I don't know if they're sending Imperium up. I feel like it's been different since COVID hit and Walter hasn't been able to come to America. But Imperium was part of Walter, and until they want to bring Walter up, I think they want to keep Imperium with them. But you never know if they want to change their mind and bring Imperium up. I hope they don't because Imperium's doing good things in NXT, and I want to see them with Walter still. I feel like if they bring them up, they're not going to give them a push. They're just going to be bodies for other people to beat up. That's not what I want to see. We had Kushida versus Austin Theory, and the funny thing here is that Austin Theory came out, cut a hot promo about how he's the big thing and he wants to go on to fight better people, and then Kushida just comes out and destroys him. I guess part of the reason for this is because you have a Japanese wrestler who doesn't speak English natively. He seems to speak enough English, so that's good. But you find ways around getting them to try and cut promos themselves because they don't know English well enough. So you have somebody else come out and cut a promo on him that he can kind of rebuke, or you have someone else cut a promo on themselves and he just destroys them, which kind of makes them look a little better, or you can give them a mouthpiece to talk for them. So in this case, this is the way they did it. I'm a Kushida fan, so I want to see him really get his turn at trying to show off who he is. So far, he's had a couple of small runs where like, here's Kushida, he's amazing, he's cool, he was undefeated for a while, and then he kind of lost in like a 4-way match for a title shot and kind of disappeared. And he's had those moments where he appears, wins matches and disappears without really getting a big push. This wasn't much though. It was just kind of a reintroduction to Kushida, maybe an introduction for Austin Theory, but I don't know because he showed up, he was able to talk a little bit and he was crushed. So as far as his legitimacy in the ring, I don't think they're showing that off too much. Maybe this was more about Kushida. So we had Tommaso Ciampa versus Desmond Troy, and this was just basically a Ciampa beat-em-up match. Ciampa's starting to look, I mean, he was just in the title fight. He's had good matches, but they're building him up for something here. I'm not sure exactly what. They kind of had him, I think Austin Theory was going after him with his promo, but Theory just got beat up by Kushida. So who's Tommaso building up to go against? I'm not sure. We'll have to see. And we had Shotzi Blackheart versus Io Shirai in a non-title match, which I thought was going to be a title match. Not that it really matters because I didn't think Shotzi was going to win. I've seen a lot of people say that they loved this match. They love Shotzi Blackheart. I'm not as big a Shotzi Blackheart fan, and I didn't love the match. The match was fine. I do love Io Shirai. They put on a decent match. It was good, a good way to start. You know, NXT lately has been putting a really good match to start each of their shows, which is really cool and not a bad idea. If we start to understand that they're going to have a great first match to start off the show, then we're going to start checking out NXT first and possibly switching back over to AEW, but possibly not. It's hard enough to get somebody's attention on your show for at least a little bit. So if you get somebody checking you out first, there's a better chance that they're going to stay with you. So I think this is a good idea, a good strategy by NXT. And we're all for the good matches, especially on NXT, because they don't have quite as many pay-per-views. Curious what they're going to do with all the call-ups in the draft, because, yeah, I have heard that they're going to be doing another draft soon. And yeah, NXT has been doing a little bit of people's storylines are getting caught off a little bit, and then once they move up to once NXT members move up to WWE or SmackDown, they don't continue on that storyline of who they are. They're mostly just a brand new person, with a few exceptions. But yeah, for the most part, they're just a brand new person. They might have a new gimmick or they might not, but they're not continuing storylines that they had from NXT. But yeah, until I see them up, I don't like to try and consider it too much. I just like, because we don't know, so why speculate? Past are they going to go up? Because it is kind of like we kind of saw Keith Lee. We thought he was a good candidate to be brought up, and what does that do with his reign? But if we're looking at, like, is Candice LeRae and Johnny Gargano, are they going to be called up? We don't really have any idea. I don't think they're really pointing anything to it, and how will that affect their storyline? We would really have to make that a thing, like if we wanted to list a few people and how will this happen. But for right now, I'd rather just see as it happens and react to it instead of trying to predict it. But that was your NXT. Like I said, a pretty good show. I enjoyed it for sure. We're going to look at AEW, though. So AEW from last week, we had, let's see. So we had FTR beat Jurassic Express. Very, very, very good match, and an interesting clash of styles where you had Jurassic Express high flying with FTR being ground and pound. You had kind of the style of match you would expect where you had Jungle Boy Jack Perry, who was kind of... I will have to say, this is how a lot of their matches go. Jungle Boy is out in the fighting, doing a good job, but eventually the other team is able to tag in and out and keep themselves fresh enough that he can't stay fresh. He gets beat up. He needs to make a tag, and he can't. Eventually, he does make the tag, and Luchasaurus comes in and cleans house for a little while, but then something takes him out, and then Jungle Boy is back, and then basically they either lose or win at that point. And that's basically what happened here, but it's not as much about the storytelling in the match, that being kind of the same old story for them, but more about the work that's done in the match. I think this was a great match. We didn't have the kind of tag team hijinks that we get a lot of times from AEW with too many people in the ring, too many people staying in the ring too much time, too much interference from outside and all that stuff. We had more of a straight good match, so good way to start off AEW. We had Hangman Page defeat Frankie Kazarian. This was more about just getting Hangman Page to have some singles matches to show off who he is as a singles competitor, which is kind of how they started off AEW. So this is more of a reminder of who he used to be. And then it's also having Kenny Omega on commentary, who's doing this kind of, I'm still friendly, I don't really care, but also I do care, and I'm going to keep criticizing him and pointing out how he's a tag team and he's not a singles competitor, and I could have helped him out. It was interesting more and so for the commentary than it was for the match. The match was fine. I expected Hangman Page to kind of beat up Frankie Kazarian a bit more, but Frankie Kazarian, too, part of SCU, more of a tag team player himself, getting him time to do some singles work, too. Finished watching AEW Midnight. I will say here, yeah, I love Chris Jericho on commentary anytime he's on commentary. I do have to say, though, I didn't know what AEW after... was it AEW? Is it After Dark? At AEW Midnight. I did not know what that was until I was trying to research for today's show. I hadn't heard that they're doing such a thing. I know they did AEW Dark, and that's the YouTube series. I need to find out what this AEW Midnight is and read up on it, exactly what it is, when it is it a weekly thing, and what exactly is all this AEW Midnight. I'm sorry I didn't have that prepared for you guys, but it just kind of, I didn't realize it was a thing. And we want to talk about, I'll answer that question really quick. What do I think about AEW's championships? on paper right now. Just very quickly, I think Jon Moxley is a good person to have the title. I would like to start seeing it move off him pretty soon, though. Let's see. I think Brody Lee's really, really good person to be holding the title for sure. The other TNT title. I think that's a really good choice. I think he's doing a really good job, and we're gonna see. I'm excited. Well, yeah. You know what? I'll hit on this later because it's part of the preview for tonight's show for exactly where they're going with the championships and all that stuff. But anyways, we got MJF beating up a jobber. To be expected. MJF more just making a statement about himself. We'll see if he gets another title opportunity or not. We got Chris Jericho and Jake Hager defeated Private Party. I kind of saw this coming. It was a good match. Chris Jericho and Jake Hager. I do want to see them in the tag team mix, especially now that FTR has the tag teams. It's kind of like sometimes the tag championships are stuck on that one team for a long time, which they were. And you just have the established teams that are kind of working their way up to get their shot. And you had FTR work their way up, get their shot, and they won it. So now that the tag titles have moved, you got a lot of speculation. Is the tag titles going to move a lot? Are they stuck with somebody? Is this FTR team for real? We need to put together a team and try and check them out. So I'm curious to see how legit of a tag team Jericho and Hagar are going to be, or if they're going to just kind of, this is what they're doing in the meantime while they don't have anything else for them. We had Thunder Rosa defeating Eva Lise for the NWA Women's Championship, which again, I didn't think the championship was going to change hands, but we got a really good match. Thunder Rosa always good. Got a good look, got good skills in the mat skills, got good skills on the mic, and Eva Lise hasn't been featured a whole lot except for winning the women's tag tournament with her partner, but she also looks like she has skills, so I wouldn't mind seeing her in the singles scene for women, since they don't really have a tag title for the women's, I don't believe. And then we also had Best Friends defeating Proud and Powerful, in the parking lot match. And this kind of came out of nowhere as being the best match of the night. A really, really good match. If you like the no holds barred type of street fights, and if you have too many of them, they do get old. You run out of ideas. What are you going to do? But in this case, we hadn't really had any of these brutal matches, especially because this wasn't a pay-per-view in a while. I knew this match was coming, and I was just kind of like, okay, so this will be an interesting match. They've been doing good things. But this was, they allowed them to do a lot of things. It didn't take long before there was blood. I believe all four men were bleeding in this match. You had cars being destroyed by bodies, destroyed by weapons. You had power slams on the roofs, power slams into body slams into glass. You had using the car trunk, the car hood as weapons. You had Orange Cassidy hiding out in one of the trunks, coming up and helping Best Friends to win this match. It was brutal in an entertaining way. I don't think it was over the top to where I couldn't watch it. And there are times where there are matches where it's not that I don't watch it, but I look away. Like, I don't want to see somebody be body slammed into thumbtacks, really. So a lot of times I'll look away from that. Or somebody that's on top of the cage acting like they're going to be thrown off. It's hard for me to watch that kind of stuff. It was brutal, but it wasn't over the top for me. I think they put their bodies on the line, put on a great match, not just because it was brutal, not just because of the creativity, but back and forth. You thought Proud and Powerful was going to win, but they didn't because Orange Cassidy helped out. And that still keeps Proud and Powerful looking strong, even though they lost this match. And they had won the past couple matches against Best Friends. So again, I still think they look strong. Best friends get the win, so it helps them look strong, even if Orange Cassidy helped them win. It wasn't against the rules because it was a street fight. Um, but yeah, they kept Orange Cassidy. It was funny because he came out of the trunk, put in his big Superman punch, which has become a big deal for Orange Cassidy. And Orange Cassidy is going to be having a big fight tonight too. Yeah, I'm surprised this wasn't on the this was on the show because it was like a pay-per-view match. I agree, and I'm not saying they should have kept it for a pay-per-view match, but I am surprised that it wasn't a pay-per-view match, or it wasn't on a pay-per-view because it was a pay-per-view type match. This was also kind of a pre-filmed match, but not a cinematic match, and I think there's two differences there. Cinematic matches, I think they'll have a lot of cuts. To where they'll film this, they'll have it already planned out. We want to do this, we're going to film this, and then they'll stop and okay, so now we want to do this and we're going to film this and we'll stop, and they can add in a lot of more special effects that way. The pre-filmed matches, they're going at the match like they normally would, and maybe something goes wrong, they can stop it, but it isn't as pre-planned. It isn't as much special effects. It's mostly, and I don't think they, for the most part, do cut out parts of it or refilm parts of it. I think for the most part they just go ahead and keep filming what's going on with a couple different cameras and edit it together. So we had Best Friends win. I guess this hopefully puts the feud with them coming out on top. And I'm interested to see what they do with everybody here, Proud and Powerful. Hopefully they get a little more opportunity to show off who they are, and Best Friends can ride this into a little boost into whoever their next feud is. So that was AEW from last week, and we're going to take a look at SmackDown, which I also watched live, because SmackDown's been a good show for maybe 6 weeks now. Or really just since the last couple of pay-per-views, since SummerSlam, SmackDown's been putting on good shows, and even a little bit before that. So SmackDown has become a thing I want to watch. And it's been that hasn't been a guaranteed thing, to be honest. Especially SmackDown for a long while was really possibly catch it later kind of TV. And Raw has been struggling too. And still is, but we'll get to that later. So what did we have in SmackDown? We had last week on SmackDown we had Jey Uso trying to be cool cousin buddy with Roman Reigns, who's come back as a badass, and he's kind of acting like, hey, we're still family, we're still cool, but you still had the tension, the dirty looks that Roman Reigns was giving Jey Uso, and Roman Reigns almost standing up Jey Uso on a tag team match, which made it a beatdown of Jey Uso, and then coming in to steal the victory. So they're set up for another match in this. Was that early? Well, maybe. Okay, so we had Roman Reigns and Jey Uso versus King Corbin and Sheamus, and we had this was a match. I forget the name of the match. It is a match where both of them could be fighting at the same time. So I don't know if it was no DQ or whatever, but or tornado tag team match. But they're able to take it. They didn't have to tag in and out. They're able to take their match. They're able to do stuff outside the ring. They're able to use some weapons and stuff. And you had them working well together, with eventually Roman Reigns getting the knockout punch and Jey Uso stealing the pinfall, much like the week before. You have Jey Uso kind of showing off that he's not going to just take it, although he's also not trying to say that, hey, we're not friends anymore. It's just kind of, I'm not going to roll over for you because you're the big baddie now. And that's trying to lead this rivalry, this feud, into the Clash of Champions. Although they still have a bit of time before Clash of Champions, so what else are they going to do before Clash of Champions? I'm not really sure. If I were them, what I would do is just have some promos, maybe promos against each other, not have them team up again, not have them fight against each other. And they don't necessarily need to go over the top and like have a match where they run in and help each other lose, run interference or anything like that. They don't need to go over the top. They can still keep it somewhat friendly, but a little bit intense and mysterious. But we'll see. We had Bayley attacking Sasha Banks again, just kind of furthering this feud that they are setting up, because Sasha Banks was in a neck brace, talking about how beat up she is and she can't believe she was betrayed so badly. Bayley comes in and interrupts, beats her up, puts her head in a folding chair again, was about to stomp it again to do more damage, but they were able to, the WWE crew was able to break it up before she could do any damage like that. This is fine with me. It wasn't like, oh my god, such a great segment, but it was showing just in the same way that I said the other Roman Reigns and Jey Uso shouldn't go over the top. This is fine for them to go over the top. Build this up as much as possible before you have the payoff. But if they're going to build it up this fast, this hot, they need to pay it off at Clash of Champions. I don't want to see this last until WrestleMania, which was kind of the idea that we had thought that this was going to last to, but that's just too far away for it to build up this fast. Yeah, Banks versus Bayley would be a good main event. To be honest, with the way that it's building up, it would be a good event. It depends on what else is on the card. But I'd say if you can get a women's match built up enough to be a main event, then go for it, because it's not happening too often. Whether it be the lack of talent that they have with so many of the stars being out right now, the lack of the attention and time given to their storylines. But right now you have a white-hot feud. It's building beyond just them hating each other, but to gigantic proportions. The only thing that right now that is up kind of that high is I know they're trying to build up Orton and Keith Lee and McIntyre, but I don't think it's really built up that much as this is. And we have Roman Reigns, who is with Paul Heyman. That kind of in itself is built up really high, but I don't think their match with Jey Uso is that has that much on the line. I mean, it has the title on the line, but it's I don't know who's going to give Jey Uso the time of day for thinking he's actually going to win. So we had Miz and John Morrison with the dirt sheet opening up the show, and basically just more Otis versus Miz and John Morrison stuff. And not a huge Miz fan, but always a fan of John Morrison, whether it's his in-ring work or his personality or his on-the-mic work. Love it all. I like Heavy Machinery. I like Otis. I don't know if I necessarily love Otis having the Money in the Bank briefcase, but that's fine. So all this hijinks is fine with me. They're not wanting to have Otis cash in yet, but he has the contract, so make that part of his storyline instead of just having it disappear like it did for a couple of months. We had Cesaro defeating Grand Metalik, which is nice to see just because Cesaro has been getting the raw end of a lot of matches lately. Grand Metalik losing also furthers the storyline of him and the rest of the Luchas. He's kind of the friend to Kalisto and friend to Lince Dorado, but for some reason Lince Dorado and Kalisto aren't friendly towards each other. I think they should go with it because he has not even had a chance to cash it in yet. Yeah, he hasn't really had a good chance to cash it in. I mean, it'd have been interesting if he came out after Roman Reigns' return and cashed it in on Roman Reigns to steal it. Or that might have been a chance for him to lose it, but I don't really want him to cash it in and lose it. Make it interesting, have him do something with it. It's hard to have an interesting storyline where anybody cashes in and loses. It just kills that person, that actual star's momentum, like dead, as we've seen with the few people it's happened for, like my favorite Damien Sandow. But yeah, so with I guess they're going to end up having a Kalisto versus Lince Dorado match, but what are they going to do afterwards? Is one of them going to break off and the other two and go single while the other two stay a tag team? Are they all three going to break up and be singles stars? What is going to happen here? Or if they want to do a 3-person match with Grand Metalik versus Kalisto versus Lince Dorado, that also would be an awesome match. But where do you go after that is what I'm thinking about. And I'm not sure if they have an answer for that either, because sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're just looking at the small picture. We want to put this match on, and then afterwards, what do you do? And then usually they just kind of disappear at that point. We had Nikki Cross defeating Lacey Evans via pinfall. We're building up Nikki Cross here for so in this match we're building up Nikki Cross for her match against Bayley for the women's title. And I'm wondering if we're going to get a Nikki Cross win here, because Nikki Cross, again, they're building her up, and they're also building up Bayley versus Banks as a feud so much. I feel like Banks is going to cost Bayley the title. Nikki Cross is going to pick it up, and then they can really lay on the feud. And maybe that's going to be at Survivor Series, Banks versus Bayley versus Banks. We'll see if they can stretch it out that long, though. That's mid-November, so we got a little ways to go. I think Bliss it's going to get in this match and disqualify Cross. That could happen too. We could get a disqualification instead of the actual title exchanging hands, but I feel like adding fuel to the fire with putting the belt off of Bayley would really drive that feud over the top if they wanted to do that. And the other side to that argument is that maybe they want Banks to win the title off of Bayley to give it that stakes, to make the stakes higher in that way. But I feel like what I would do, and it doesn't have to be done this way, what I would do is I would have Bayley lose the title, have Banks be the cause of that. That really brings a lot of heat onto that feud. Give Nikki Cross a chance at it, and if you want, you can have Banks get her redemption, beat up Bayley, and then you have Banks, with that momentum, take on Cross and win the title off of Cross. That is a good way to extend the storyline without having to rush it or without having to extend it so far that it's boring. We have... finally, we also have AJ Styles defeating Sami Zayn via pinfall with a schoolboy roll-up. We're getting a lot of nonsense with the Sami Zayn, AJ Styles, and Jeff Hardy. But let's see. Yeah, but it's been good fun, and it's leading to this three-way match that's going to be at Clash of Champions, and it's going to be a ladder match, which is Jeff Hardy's home turf, but it's going to be interesting to see Sami Zayn, AJ Styles, and Jeff Hardy in a ladder match. I mean, it's fun to see ladder matches anyways, but we're going to finally crown a winner, even though AJ Styles' point is probably the weakest here. I don't know. I see what they're doing. You want to raise the stakes and everything. Sami Zayn was gone for a while. I don't know why somebody just doesn't say, hey, Sami Zayn, we've had tons and tons and tons of people that go on hiatus and have to give up their title. It happens all the time. It's not unique. So Sami Zayn saying, like, I never lost the title. Well, yeah, you never lost it, but it's not like there's no precedence for people who give up the title. I mean, Roman Reigns was one of them. And granted, he came back and got a title shot, but he got the title shot. He didn't come back and was literally handed the title. And then AJ Styles is just saying, I got beat, but I don't feel like I'm worse than Jeff Hardy, so I should still be champ. And that's such a weak argument. But he's actually being in the title. It's not like he made himself a fake little belt that he wears around. He doesn't have the belt, and he wants to win it back, and he feels like he should have first shot at it. That much makes sense. I am hyped for this match at Clash of Champions for so many reasons. I think this is going to be a great match. I don't think it's going to be main event, nor do I think it should be, but maybe an early match to get people really excited and for the pay-per-view as it starts. So yeah, SmackDown's been great. I would suggest if you're not watching SmackDown live, if you can't watch it a little bit afterwards, but don't skip it. This is good stuff, and their ratings have been going up to kind of show how good it's been. Hopefully they take note and keep it coming. And we're going to move on to Raw as we are trying to not go way over on time as we usually do. And boy, we're going to have a lot to talk about here. Let's see here. So we had Drew McIntyre defeats Keith Lee via disqualification in this match. We had Keith Lee, who was trying to not take advantage of Drew McIntyre's jaw being hurt by Randy Orton. You have Randy Orton coming in and hitting an RKO anyways. You had Drew McIntyre taking advantage of Keith Lee not being as aggressive as he should. And I think if it's not officially announced, this should be a three-way match for the title at Clash of Champions, which should be a good match. All of these warm-up matches, and I understand that you don't want to have the full match because this is pay-per-view quality, but I feel like you got to have a better way to build this feud rather than having each match interrupted. This is very much the same thing that they're doing for the Intercontinental Championship on SmackDown. It works more on SmackDown because there's a lot more goofier characters that are in that title shot. What you have here on Raw is three people that are trying to be taken seriously, and they just keep all having these goofy hijinks. I think it's bringing it down a little bit. That's not to say that the match is going to be good, but it's not building up the hype that I think it should be. As far as stuff that's happening on WWE, it's not a whole lot to talk about. As I mentioned, we had Retribution revealed. It's been talked about to death by a ton of people about how kind of dumb the storyline is for this. We have Retribution that are kind of mad and dumb that people are getting paid to be on WWE and they're going to do what they want. So then they get signed. So now they're being paid by WWE. So now they're what they hated. But then they're also still doing whatever they want as part of their contract, which doesn't make sense from WWE's point of view. So storyline-wise, this really didn't make a whole lot of sense. As far as this goes and everything else, I want to jump in. We had somebody mentioned that possibly this show is being reworked on the fly, and I would not be surprised if that was the case. So we also had Retribution versus the Hurt Business, who last week decided that they were going to take care of Retribution and chase them down. I thought that was really cool. Them getting to work against Retribution and getting the disqualification, that was not so cool. Yeah, and they're doing the whole monster movie thing that works well in Japan, doesn't work as well in America. And you also had Cedric Alexander, who just went from being ultra face to heel turn. So now he's ultra heel to the face team because Retribution is the heel team. So now he's face again. It's just no consistency here, storyline wise. I understand sometimes you have an endpoint and you want to make it happen, but you really need to plan how you're going to go from point A to point B. And it's not teleportation, because teleportation doesn't really exist. It's walking the line that makes sense to get from point A to point B. So you need to really think about what is happening here. And that's the kind of thing you get when you get these rewrites at the end where they're kind of like, I want this to happen, make it happen. We don't know how to make it happen. Just make it happen. It doesn't matter. What's more important than the story is just making these people fight each other. And I disagree with that. I think what's more important is getting the story to where it makes sense that these people are fighting each other. For me, and this, and I do a movie podcast, so this works out for me in movies too. I don't care about characters if I can't relate to them. And by relate, I don't mean personally I've done the same thing or I feel the same way, but I understand why they're doing what they're doing. And once you have a story that doesn't make sense, I no longer understand, so I lose interest. It's not even that I hate this. It's that I don't care about it, and that's worse than hating it, because if I hate it, I'm going to watch it to yell at it. I'm going to watch it so I can tell you guys I hate it. If I'm not interested in it, I'm going to read a book while this section's going on, I'm going to turn on the baseball game. And that's something that I think WWE needs to realize and manage. That you want, whether people are booing Roman Reigns or cheering Roman Reigns, they're not yawning when Roman Reigns is out there. That's the kind of thing you want, and that's the kind of thing they need to build towards. What else happened? We had Angel Garza and Andrade defeat Seth Rollins and Murphy and Dominic Mysterio and Humberto Carrillo. So Garza and Andrade severed ties, and they're back together. No explanations given. Rollins and Murphy severed ties, and they're back together. No explanations given. Dominic Mysterio and Humberto Carrillo I don't think they've ever met on WWE, but they're both Hispanic luchadors. It makes sense that they're a team, even if they didn't spell it out for us. I get it. That's fine. But then they have Garza and Andrade win, and they're going to be facing the Street Profits again for a match that nobody wants to see again. Why is this happening? Why? Why? Yeah, I know what you mean, Corey. With I hope this doesn't last too long. Something going on with Mysterio family. Yeah, they're trying to work this Aaliyah and Murphy thing. They're trying to work this Aaliyah is not part of the Mysterio thing, and I don't know if this is supposed to be a parody of the Dominic Mysterio, or Dominic is not actually Rey Mysterio's son, or if it's legit supposed to be another storyline that just happens to be the same thing, and hopefully people don't remember that it happened before, because if it's a parody, okay, it's kind of funny, but they're taking it a little too seriously for it to be funny. And if it's not a parody, then it's just unoriginal. We had Kevin Owens hosting Shane McMahon for the KO show, and I know these shows are never straight interviews, and if you expect them to be, then I feel like that's your fault. So with it being interrupted, with it being Shane McMahon who KO hates, it's all good. I understand that. Strowman comes out, wrecks stuff. Aleister Black comes out and wrecks stuff. We got a whole lot of stuff being wrecked, and that's fine. It's like when they have food on WWE. People get thrown into it, or it gets thrown at people. It always happens, and if you're mad about it, just get used to it, I guess. Food doesn't last very long, and neither do these talk show segments. We had Zelina Vega versus Mickie James. I love Zelina Vega. This match made sense with Mickie James feeling like she didn't lose because the ref tapped her out last week when she wasn't tapping out. So this is fine. I like seeing Zelina Vega have matches, so all good to me. Sorry, Corey, you made me laugh. But we'll get to Raw Underground in a bit here. Apollo Crews defeats Cedric Alexander via pinfall with a roll-up. And I mean, Cedric Alexander was part of the Retribution match, so he had a lot of stuff going on here. This was just kind of a throwaway match. We had distraction, hijinks, and roll-ups, and so blah to that match. We're going to skip over that. We had Dolph Ziggler versus Arturo Ruiz, which is just... Oh, this is in Raw Underground, so it's just kind of a quick throwaway match to get Dolph Ziggler a win. We had Seth Rollins inviting the Mysterio family to join him, where they did the whole Aliyah is not your daughter kind of thing. We already talked about that. Rather see Mickie James and not Zelina Vega. Mickie James, I like her. I don't think they want to push her that far yet. Zelina Vega came out of nowhere. She hasn't been built up. We went over that. The storyline wise, it makes more sense that Mickie James would be there. I get that. I completely get that. In this case, because we don't hardly ever see Zelina Vega in matches, I'm willing to push all that story nonsense aside just to see this match. And it's not going to be 5-star match. It's because there's no build up for it. It's not going to be a masterpiece. It's not going to be the main event. But we're getting to see Zelina Vega in a fight with Asuka, and I think that alone is worth the price of admission for me. The price of admission being a really crappy storyline that doesn't make sense. So I'm willing to allow that to slide in this case. So we had Jackson Baszler defeat Lana and Natalya, just destroy them. I like that they're keeping Jackson Baszler looking like monsters. It's kind of weird that they're doing this for the tags titles, but I mean it's specifically because they're doing something else with the singles titles. So that's fine. But I'd like to see them get single shots because they deserve it. And the way that they're showing right now is that they're both the individual best women's singles talent right now. They just haven't had singles matches, and that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So Raw Underground would get Riddick Moss defeating Eric via TKO, which is kind of weird. They're building up Riddick Moss in the Underground, although what we know about Underground is that they could just kick him off the ledge anytime, and his build-up meant nothing, because that's what they did with Ziggler. We had Asuka defeat Peyton Royce via disqualification, and they had Peyton Royce and Billie Kay kind of as friends again, even though they really shouldn't be friends storyline-wise. But this was just a no-brainer. Asuka was going to win, just building her up so that she has some momentum going into the pay-per-view, another throwaway match. And finally, we had Braun Strowman defeating Dabba-Kato via total knockout, which was really weird decision to make. You had built up Dabba-Kato solely and only in Raw Underground, and for him to just get blown away really fast by Braun Strowman like this completely invalidates him. He's gone. I know they're going to use him some bit more, and they might even try to build him up again, but I feel like it's too late. What does this do for Braun Strowman, though? I mean, I feel like they're not going to continue with him in Raw Underground as a Raw Underground monster. So I think this just killed Dabba-Kato and had no bright side out of it. But I guess we'll see. We'll see if they make Braun Strowman this beast of the Raw Underground, then good, I guess. But that was just, even so, it's such a waste of Dabba-Kato. They could have made this the Raw Underground pay-per-view match, Braun Strowman versus Dabba-Kato, and then had it or whatever. Although there's no way they would do Raw Underground for pay-per-view, because the nature of their matches are to be more realistic and be faster. They're not going to have a 15-minute Raw Underground match, because that's not the way Raw Underground works. So I'm still okay with Raw Underground, but they're not running it well. They need to run it a bit better. We've talked about that before, too. I guess a lot of these problems are continuations of problems that we've already seen. Yeah, I wonder if we'll get a Raw Underground pay-per-view. It would be cool. I feel like more like they would do a Raw Underground match during a pay-per-view. If they wanted to do a Raw Underground pay-per-view, they could do a real cool stuff with it. I don't think they will. Because, again, the matches don't last long enough, and if they were to last longer, then it wouldn't really be like Raw Underground. It would be just like regular Raw. So that's why I think you can throw a couple of those matches in there. Yeah, maybe even a couple matches. Maybe if you want to fill the pre-show with the Raw Underground match, I think that makes sense. Or if you want to have a Raw Underground title, it would be fine. It's just you're not going to be able to fill up a whole lot of time because these matches are faster, and that's kind of how they should be. Braun Strowman versus Dolph Ziggler. That's fun match, but if they want to do it in Raw Underground, I don't see how they give Dolph Ziggler a chance at all. I mean, if you're going to do one of these gigantic people versus a smaller person in Raw Underground, the two things you could do is have Dolph Ziggler, who's such a real amateur wrestler, get in a real fast like takedown and chokehold to where they have to tap out really fast, or get in a lucky shot kick. Like somehow they do enziguris, and enziguris look like they should be the most dangerous move in wrestling, but they're never that dangerous. But yeah, for real, if you're kicking somebody really hard in the head, because like they have Randy Orton do punts, and that's the only difference is that the dude's laying down on the ground. When you have a enziguri, somebody's jumping up and punting you in the head. It's just that person's standing on their feet. That's just as devastating. But that's the only kind of wins that you're going to have are these freak I get a good shot in kind of wins. But okay, so yeah, going overall, we can go over these. I'd do more singles. Like if I'm going to go off on Raw Underground or what they should do and all that stuff, I'd do that more on a singles look. But we've been live for an hour and 10 minutes, although I guess like 10 minutes of that was me playing Halloween music as we got ready to start. But we're going to go over the preview for tonight, NXT, AEW. And with AEW, we had some late-minute changes, as I've heard from John Bear. The Murder Hawk, who was due to have a match, had sick or have COVID or something, so he is had to be replaced last minute. But we're going to start with NXT here. We have a, let's see, we're going to start with, we have Ciampa versus Atlas. They're not specifically saying that it is. Oh, okay. So they're advertising tonight as takeoff to NXT Takeover. So I guess these are all specifically supposed to lead into their Takeover pay-per-view, which is fine with me. But so we have Ciampa makes Atlas regret. Will Ciampa make Atlas regret asking for a rematch? I don't know if they're actually going to have the rematch or if the rematch is going to be at TakeOver. I'm hoping they're having it now because I don't think they've really built Atlas up much to have a big match at TakeOver. So that might be a match or it might be a promo. Finn Balor is ready to take on all challengers with his title. Looks like he's going to have a promo. We have a battle royale to determine the number one contender to Io Shirai's NXT Women's Championship. I love battle royales. I love battle royales. So I highly suggest you make sure you watch this battle royale. I will be. We have a 5 superstars vie for the NXT Championship opportunity and a first ever gauntlet eliminator match. We have a thick boy Bronson Reed. We got Fish. We got Thatcher. We got Cameron Grimes, and we have Kushida. All people I want to see except for Grimes. Get him out of there, but still, at least we can see him get beat up. He better not win this match. I don't think Fish is going to win this match because he's a tag match specialist. Thatcher, I would like, as much as I'd like to see him win, I don't think he's going to, especially because he just lost to Damian Priest. They could have Reed because they had a bit of that rivalry before the match for the actual title, and they could have Kushida because he's a rising star here. I feel like Bronson Reed is going to win this match, and I'd like to ask you, since I know you're active in the chat here, Corey, who you think among those is going to win this match and be the NXT challenger at TakeOver. And while you are coming up with that answer, I'm going to move over to AEW. Tonight, we have, out of nowhere, Jon Moxley versus Eddie Kingston for the AEW World Championship, a championship match with two people who are brutal. This is going to be interesting. Fun to see, if nothing else. I really don't think Kingston's going to take the title, but this is going to be a fun match and a brutal match. We also have Joey Janela and Sonny Kiss versus the best man Miro and Kip Sabian. This is kind of Miro's first in-ring action, and I unfortunately think Joey Janela and Sonny Kiss are going to get beat up. But I always love seeing Sonny Kiss, so this will be fun. It'll be interesting to see Miro's first match. We have, let's see. We have John. No, that's been changed. Besides that, I'm not sure what else they've changed here. They might just have Will Hobbs and Darby Allin versus Brian Cage and Lance Archer, maybe. That's a guess. They should be having Hikaru Shida and Thunder Rosa versus Ivelisse and Diamante. That should be a really good match there. And we should be having Mr. Brody Lee versus Orange Cassidy, which is a primo match right there for the TNT Championship. So we got the TNT and the AEW Champions belts up for both of them up for grabs here. Man, both shows look great tonight, and I've just hyped myself up as I often do on Wednesdays. What am I going to watch? I'm going to be flipping back and forth. I'm going to give my nod to AEW, and here's why. AEW has Orange Cassidy versus Brody Lee. That's going to be amazing. AEW has a primo. I mean, it's not for any stakes here, but Shida and Rosa versus Ivelisse and Diamante is going to be primo. We're getting Kingston and Moxley, which is also primo. These are 3 amazing matches that we're also going to see. Sonny Kiss and Joey Janela versus Best Man Miro and Kip Sabian. I'm interested in this match, even if I don't think it's going to be a great match. As I told you, I love Battle Royales. I'm going to be watching that. We also get the 5-man Gauntlet Eliminator match. Man, this is like two pay-per-view nights competing against each other at the same exact time. This is quality stuff here, guys. If you're a fan of pro wrestling, this is your night. Do I think Orange Cassidy can beat Brody Lee? So, Brody Lee. I hope you didn't. I hope that's a typo, but that's a really funny typo. Mr. Brody Lee, and since you asked me, and we're going to hit on this before I leave here, Orange Cassidy has been built up. He's been able to overcome Jericho, and he's been able to beat up several other people. He was the difference maker in the parking lot match. But Brody Lee also built up very, very strong. Brody Lee, I'm not sure if they're ready to get the title off him. I have to think Orange Cassidy is going to lose. I'd like to think, or is not going to get the title. I'm going to say that. Orange Cassidy is not going to get the title. I think there's a chance, and if they're smart, they're going to have interference run here. Possibly Colt Cabana, because he's been on the downside, maybe wanting to get on the good graces of Mr. Brody Lee again, might come in and try to help him out, but end up getting a disqualification, giving the win to Orange Cassidy, but the title staying with Brody Lee. That's my prediction. That's what I hope, because I don't want to see Orange Cassidy take a clean loss here after getting built up, and I know it's not going to hurt him too much, but I'm a big Orange Cassidy fan, and it wouldn't make a whole too much sense. So that's why I'm thinking we're going to have a good match. Hopefully Orange Cassidy's going to show that maybe he's about to win it, but Colt Cabana interrupts, causes a DQ. Cassidy looks strong. Brody Lee looks strong and keeps his title. That's what I'm hoping for. So all that being said, I want to say thank you to everybody in the chat for being here. Thank you for watching it on my stream. If you're not following me already, please do. I am also streaming some different gaming, usually old games, Windows 98 games. I'm going to be streaming Ultimate Mahjong. I was streaming Crazy Taxi. I was streaming Who Wants to Be a Millionaire before. I stream these and then I put up reviews for them on my YouTube channel, so look for that Matt85 on YouTube. Next week, like I said, John Bear should be here with me, same time, same place. Well, not the same place. We're going to be at John Bear's YouTube channel instead of mine, like we normally are. I also want to advertise our the Bear Side of the Mat YouTube channel, so look for the Bear Side of the Mat on YouTube for any part of this that you might have missed, any part of past episodes you might have missed, or if you want, we have some exclusive singles content, which this is kind of a singles content right here, but we do a little extra in-depth look at different things that pique our curiosity and put it up on YouTube. Also do a podcast with my friend Pat, movie podcast based on different movies that we're reviewing and movie news, called Bearded Reviews. So look at Bearded Reviews on YouTube. And to check out links for all this stuff and schedules for what we have going on in the future, as well as any comments we have about gaming technology and wrestling, look at that Matt85 on Twitter or John Bear. I don't know if it was John Bear or John Bear Gaming on Twitter to get all of that. So with that, all of that out of the way, I want to say again, thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning in, especially having it switched over to mine on my channel on short notice. And we're going to look to raid somebody. So we're going to raid... let me take a quicker look here, guys. We're going to... let's raid... geez. So I don't... Okay, so we're going to be... oh, boy. we're going to be rating an MLB The Show player. I don't know this dude, so we're going to hope that this is an okay person to raid. This is the Destroyer 6016.
Nasty.
Yes,
that
let's
dude
do it.
Couldn't fucking touch that slider.
Well, no, let's not, because I'm actually looking at him now,
sniper?
and that's not good. Real Trash Panda. I feel like I've heard him before, so we're gonna go to Trash Panda here.
Actually, let's take the Phillies really quick.
Yes. Okay, so.
Bro, I just.
There we
I
go.
don't know,
Yes,
I
he's
don't know.
playing
This is
MLB
so
The
many
Show.
games,
He looks
bro.
like a cool dude. I believe I've seen him before, so let's give him a raid.
You can't make it stop.
And we'll catch you next week.
I'm figuring that out with the
of
other
streamers
streamers as well. I'm like, wait, how do
where are we at? Okay, so thank you for tuning in.